I've got it.
Okay. Is everybody here? So we don't have to do appointment of alternates, so we are good. So we'll start with public participation. Paul Anderson.
Thank you. Okay, Paul Anderson, 89 Main Street, Broadbrook. I'm here representing the Broadbrook Library Association, of which I'm the president. The reason I voted no on the budget is that it's short by $1. This is the first time I have voted no on a budget since I came to town in 1971. That dollar should have been put in for the Broadbrook Library to keep it in the budget, assuring that we would get a budget request next year. The Broadbrook Library is not a new item, and has been, as has been said, we have been supported by the town for more than 60 years, except for last year. That was the first time we were removed from the budget. I find this unacceptable. I will vote yes on the budget when the Broadbrook Library is reinstated as a line item under libraries for at least $1.
Thanks. Jack?
Jack Manette, Old Ellington Road. It was nice to see that most of the department's percentage of increase in their spending was, I thought, fairly reasonable. There was one that caught my eye, though. That's the police department. Last year, we gave the police department 7%. This year, you proposed a 5.5% increase in spending. The reason it caught my eye is that I wonder if I asked any one of you on the Board of Finance, what do you think the average salary for our police officers are? I wonder how many of you can really answer that. Well, let me give you a little statistics. The top 11 officers in our department, you know what that comprises 46% of the police officers. You know what their average salary is? This is without overtime. $94,000 is their average salary. The balance of the officers, by the way, is 13. Their average salary is $84,000 a year. When you look at the reality of what this town is, I ask you to take a look at what we're paying our police officers. Don't get me wrong, I'm not speaking down to the officers. And I'm not speaking, they negotiated these salaries. But can a town of Broadbrook size or Warehouse Point size or East Windsor, can we afford the amount that we're paying? I don't think so. You know, we have a top officer making $103,000 a year. They don't even, that doesn't even include their fringe benefits, because generally it's about 40%. I'm recommending that you take a look at 5.1 or 5.5%. I think that it's reasonable to say that if this thing goes all the way to 3 referendums, they're going to get 2%. So I suggest you think about bringing the police department from a 5.5 down into a 2%. I think that, in my personal opinion, is that will pass. That's $111,000 you have to take out of the budget. In my opinion, that will pass on the next referendum. So I please ask you to consider very much what I'm saying. I do have a copy so you can see what the salaries of the officers are and where the numbers come from. And that's my comment.
Thank you. Anybody else? Public participation? Nick?
Need a sign?
Yep.
Okay.
You're welcome.
So I understand is this.
Okay, Richard D. Pippin, 37 Wall Road. I think you guys should take this budget that the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Education has worked diligently on, cutting every corner, looking for pennies, nickels, anything they can get, and send it right back to the voters and tell them, this is what we need to run this town, and it really isn't going to give us any progress. I have sat through our deliberations, of course, and all of yours, and it's getting to the point that we are going to really, we're going to hurt this town if we keep this business up. But I do agree with Jack. There's a little to be said for that. And I should maybe, well, yeah, don't fall over, Jack.
Not to worry, Dick.
I don't know what to do. We need public safety. I definitely don't want to go out there and stand out and be a target like they do. That's worth something, some extra compensation, but it really seems like it's getting out of hand. My comment is send it right back again and tell them this is what we need. And it really is. It's not actually enough to run this town and run it right. This 2% has killed the town for the last, ever since this charter's been brought in. Once this inflation starts in, we're dead. Thank you.
Thank you. William?
Bill Lois, Melrose Road. I agree with Jack here. Last year, at 7%, that put our budget way up. For the reason it passed at the third referendum. I don't know why, but that budget shouldn't have been 7% increase for the police department. I look at a lot of accidents that we go to. I don't know why 3 police officers have to go to a minor accident. I think we're overdoing the police department response to some of these accidents that we have. As a member of the fire department for 60 years, as a volunteer for 60 years, I don't agree with this 5.5% increase this year in the police department. They don't need an extra officer that they're trying to put on now. Get rid of that extra officer they're trying to put on. We don't need another one. There's 26 officers there now. Look at Ellington, a larger town than East Windsor. They got 4 state police officers. Their budget is less than $1 million. A larger population, a larger area to cover. I don't know what this town is thinking of when we put this much police department people on duty over here. We don't need them. Thank you.
Kathy?
Kathy Billadew, 343 Scannick Road. First of all, I think that I completely agree with Mr. Pippin over there. I think that it's time that we put forth a budget to the town to vote on. That's what's originally presented to the Board of Finance. I know, speaking with the work that we've done on the Board of Education, there was a lot of work that went in to get all the cuts made to get it to the budget that we presented originally at 4.7%. The other side of it is, I feel that the Board of Education's been treated a little bit inequitably in that we're only currently down for 1.55, knowing that if 3 referendums fail, it will revert to 2%, is the rationale that I utilized in making my decision to vote no for the first time since I can remember against the budget. To speak to Mr. Luce in regards to the police department salary, I worked in human resources, I've been in a lot of different business environments, and $100,000 nowadays is almost an average salary of anybody that's considered a professional in any way. And these professionals are putting their lives on the line. So I think we need to keep the services that are necessary to run a town, which would be education, police, fire, and public works. And we need to look at the other areas if there needs to be cut. I know that we can't keep looking for tax revenue to take care of things. It's time that we need to look at a budget and say, these things are extra. They're wonderful, they're great services, they're great things that we're offering to our townspeople, but in reality, they're extra. These are the things that you have to maintain structure in your town and for your citizens, and take a look at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah?
I live at 144 Main Street, and I'm a mom. I'm an East Windsor mom of a high school freshman. I've lived here for 10 years, and he's gone to school since preschool. So I've ridden out the wave that many of us high school parents have felt during budget times. We've gone to the Board of Ed meetings in May and said, Board of Ed, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And given them the analogies of, well, families are going to move out of town, and I think the board, I'd like for more parents to speak up to the Board of Finance, because I appreciate the work that you do. And when you maybe hear the parents say to you, education is important. And our high school finally got a silver award this week, is that what it's called? Right?
Yeah.
And as a parent, 2 years ago, I was like, we were up and down in the school district, and I said it to the Board of Selectmen, we've been up and down, we've been through a lot, but we have some consistency here. And it's taken money, and it's taken staff dedication. And I personally feel our schools are important, our public safety is important, and public works. And to the board members I speak to as a board, that personally, what does a librarian do? 2 years ago, they had to shut the middle school library due to budgets. Our kids lost resources for research, books, they need it for school, because they still do use books, believe it or not. And $100,000, taking that out of the budget, what does that cut? That cuts paraprofessionals, teachers. And in 2014, we saw that happen. Our kids lost paraprofessionals, some teaching staff, other staff in the building had to come in, fill in. So it may seem like a small amount, but it means a lot. And our kids are the most important thing. And they're working hard, and they're succeeding, and they're putting East Windsor on the map in a good way. So as a Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, I would think you'd want to, try to present a budget that, oh, well, if it goes to the third time, we go to the 2%, but we have a 2.4% budget. I think what I've heard from a lot of parents, nobody wants to see more taxes. Who has it? But maybe if we set the bar higher and we say to the community, this is our budget, this is what, if we can keep the money at this level, we'll start up here, then maybe we can give you these services. We won't have to cut the education, we won't have to cut senior services. That's just, I think that's important. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? Sign up.
You'll get out of here. My suggestion.
I have one. So, my name is Jason Bowser. I live at 121 East Road. I'm also a sitting selectman. As our board has put in quite a bit of time into the budget process since the start of the year, I want to thank you all for the time that you've put in during your portion of the process. And having sat on that side of the table on your board, I know that it's not the easiest place to be, particularly during a difficult year. I do want to make a couple of points. As far as I'm aware, there is no additional sworn police officer that's included in this budget. There is an additional clerical position, which was part of a negotiated labor agreement that we have with the union. That was a negotiated settlement. So that, to be clear, there is not an additional sworn police officer. And that's a distinction that I think is important to make. You hear all the time, that salaries are too high, we pay our staff too much, but the reality is that until state law changes, we are bound by collective bargaining. We are bound by binding arbitration, and no matter what the budget process does, we're not going to lower those salaries. To the extent that people are frustrated with where those stand, they should be voicing that to the people who negotiate those salaries, which is the Board of Selectmen. And we make no secret of when there is a labor contract that is under consideration. We have meetings every 2 weeks. We have public participation, twice a meeting on our agendas. To the extent that people have feedback about what those negotiations should include, that is a very appropriate time to be voicing that. To be venting frustrations about what those negotiations include after the fact and during the budget cycle is not productive from anybody's perspective. So I just would make that point. Yesterday we saw fewer than 750 people participate in the budget referendum, which is the low water mark that I'm aware of. That puts you guys in a very difficult position because you really don't know why people voted against it. You don't know why people didn't vote at all. Certainly the town could have done a better job in letting people know that there was a referendum. Certainly there was some misrepresentation in some of the numbers that were put out there, which is alarming and really disheartening. The charter speaks to what happens if the budget fails 3 times, and that is that you revert to the previous year's budget plus a 2% spending increase. The charter is completely silent on anything other than a spending increase. So that's something that I think is important for you all to keep in mind as you're figuring out where the expenditures are going to be for the next fiscal year. I would offer this, because you don't know where or why people voted the way they did. What your responsibility then kind of defaults to is to make sure that a budget is offered that is a manageable budget. Something that makes sense, something that is able to be implemented in the event that it should pass, or that it should be defaulted after the third referendum. So I think your target over the next, well, tonight or over the next coming weeks ought to be to hit that 2% number on the money in such a way so that it is manageable for the next fiscal year. And I know that people are going to be saying, cut this, don't cut that, this is important to me, this isn't important to anybody. The reality is, you guys need to think about what is workable for the next 2 years and put anybody's sacred cows or favorite targets aside and think about the management of the town for the next year. That's all I have to say.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'd like to speak.
Yep.
My name is Pat.
You just have to sign up for me, okay?
Okay.
Thanks.
My name is Pat Tracy. I live at 241 South Water Street. Okay, here in town. I've been a taxpayer for over 35 years. Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Every time we go around, we have a budget, and who wants to vote to raise their taxes? Nobody wants that. So 3 times you go out. Every time we go out, it's like $5,000, I believe, for people to sit there and take my name and my address and give me a piece of paper so I can write my little dot on it, whether it's going to be yes or no, and put it in the ballot. So if you do that 3 times, that's $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 every time we do this. And I don't think anybody wants their taxes to go up. Of course, I don't want my taxes to go up. I want everything for nothing. I'm a senior. That's what we want. Now, I rub elbows every day with people who have been paying taxes for as long as this town has been around, because their grandparents and their parents have lived here in this town and paid taxes. So that's another thing. Okay. The senior center. Of course, I'm interested in seeing that the senior center goes on and on. Not just the center, but all the services that we have for our seniors. Because, you know, you're all young people. Mr. Smith, I don't know which one you are.
I'm grouchy and old.
Someday, you're Mr. Smith?
Yes, I am.
You know, someday, you're going to get old. Well, if you live that long. You just don't know.
I know, especially with the drivers.
Okay, that's the big deal. The people need rides. They need rides to go to the doctor, to even get their hair done, or whatever they need. They need those services. We should never cut that out. That is something, you know, there's 3 ages of seniors. There's the young ones, like me, and then there's the middle ones who are not quite as able to get around, and then there's the older ones that can definitely not drive anymore. They need somebody to have a meal. They don't even cook at home anymore. You know, they have, so that's another group. So there's 3 ages of seniors nowadays. Now the baby boomers are coming up. Are you a baby boomer?
Not even close.
Not even close. Well, anyway, the baby boomers are coming up. They're going to need those services as time goes on. It's not going to get better. We can't cut out the seniors. We just can't do that. And besides, if you had $15,000 that you're paying for that stuff, if you paid that $15,000 for 2 years, you could remediate the stuff in the old schoolhouse. You could have got rid of all that asbestos, which is a terrible thing. But for $15,000, I think $30,000 it costs to get rid of that asbestos. So you would have got rid of that. And then you could have started about demolishing that place and make a beautiful new center, not just for seniors, but a community center. But seniors could take a good advantage of that. And we can use the stage to have a dance, you know, or whatever. We just cannot forget about our seniors in this township. We cannot do that. You know, I think there's supposed to be a sunshine law, you know, that says, we're going to have this vote. We're going to do this. And I don't think I saw that. I didn't see anything in the paper about having the vote to vote for the referendum, you know, I didn't see it. I don't know, maybe other people did. I looked all through the paper. It wasn't in there.
It's in there.
Which paper?
What do we do, Jan?
Oh, the JI. It wasn't in the current.
Nothing goes in the current.
Nothing goes in the current?
Current doesn't cover us.
Current doesn't really cover us.
I'm right on top of stuff, you notice that? But anyway, so I know that we have a charter, and in our charter, we have said that we're gonna go out for referendum. You know, every time you do your budget. And I don't envy you at all. I mean, this is the worst job. I was married to an accountant, so I know a little bit, that much. But I wouldn't want your job, you know, because you're gonna have to cut somebody somewhere along the line. But you gotta think about the future. And if you can change the charter so that we didn't have to go out to that referendum, we'd have all kinds of money. I think that would be it.
Doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way. Son of a gun.
They tried.
Anyway, well, that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening. Oh, I didn't know we were having a meeting tonight about the seniors, that was going to be on the table. I didn't find out till this afternoon. That's why I said about the sunshine thing.
Gotcha.
Gotcha.
Anybody else? What? Okay, go ahead, Ken.
Back to Simonelli, 71 Depot Street. I lost track of my thoughts there a little bit. You were very entertaining. And I'm not even a senior. Like a couple other people in here, I voted no for this budget for the first time ever. It felt really strange to circle that other. I had to look at it 3 times before I could get it right. And I voted no for 2 reasons. The primary one being, well, I guess they're both primary. The first one being that I don't see our Board of Finance ever showing our town what we truly need. I think the town feels it's okay to vote things down because we go out to them with such a low percentage in the first place. They think that's all we need, so they can undercut us a little bit more and we'll be fine. And we can't. We can't continue to operate that way. I think at least once, each budget cycle, we need to show people what the departments really need to run this town properly. Let them vote it down, but at least they've heard it once. And then you can start the cuts. And the other reason, of course, that I voted it down is because of the 1.55% to education, which I felt being one of the 3 primary responsibilities of government was something that was underfunded and will adversely affect the services that we can provide in the school. So as you heard, Sarah said, we were voted 29th best high school in the state. And a lot of that has to do with us and the way that we handle the disadvantaged and the economically disadvantaged kids in our district, of which there are quite a few. The staff that they were working under when they did those awards was 40% of economically disadvantaged, and I think 29 or 35%, somewhere in that range, of minorities. So the statistics prove that those kids need extra help. We need the extra people to help those kids succeed along with the rest of the population. And if we can only help some of the kids, then we're not doing our jobs. So I implore you to please put some money back in the education and find some of the, as Kathy said, nice to have places, but not necessary places to make the cuts that you need to make. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Going once? Going twice? All right, then I call for a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you very much. All right, so now we immediately following have our workshop, unless some of you want to take like a 2-minute break. Run to the restroom? Sure. Huh? You want a 2-minute break? All right, go ahead. Yep. So we will adjourn again in 5 minutes for the special meeting, okay? All right. What years are the baby boomers? How do you know the baby boomers?
Seriously?
Yeah, what years are the baby boomers? Isn't it
64?
up to 60? Well, don't look at me. I am a baby boomer. I'm
not.
Not close.
Get extra.
You weren't too up baby boomer.
I'm sorry, I'm born 1960.
You don't want to hear my,
So you're a
you don't
baby
want to
boomer.
hear
Up
what I
to
want to hear.
64 is a baby
Oh,
boomer.
damn it. Well, I didn't do that.